now. Yeah. And so you click on it, and then it's going to, okay, there you go. So now something should pop up saying, there you go, view request. So now you should be, so I'm going to hang up because it's going to bring you up with me, okay? Okay. Oops.
Hey,
Hi.
hey.
Hi. I'm accepting Dr. Agrios says he's unable to join. I don't understand. Okay, let me view the request again. Go live. There you go.
All right, here we go. How's it going? All right, good. I try to find my. Are we live right now?
We are, but that's fine. We give people time enough to join.
Okay. I was looking for a stand, but I'm
So
just
we
gonna.
allow a few minutes. It's for technical problems and things, and you're not the only one. This is kind of unuser friendly when people first come on here.
I think my stand's downstairs, so I'm gonna be moving here. Let me see if I can just post it like this. Like I said, I thought it was on the computer. That's all.
No, we all have. I thought it was on a computer too. I don't know why it isn't.
Good. Can you hear me
We
here?
can.
See me okay?
Uh-huh.
All right. Because I have a wireless I could have worn, but all right.
I was just pulling up. You guys know me. I do research. So I was just pulling up a lot of research on a topic. I think this is a great topic. As always, we always have great topics on here.
Could do this. Let me see. Trying to take how do I stop my phone? Well, it's going to be all over the place, guys. My apologies.
That's okay. So guys, come on in. You know how we do. We give it till about 7:05, and then we get started.
How's that now?
Oh, turn your phone. It's sideways.
Oh, so I can't do it that way. I have to do
No,
it
you
this
have
way.
to. So with Instagram, you have to have it vertical.
All right. Well, we're just going to do this, and that's the best we're going to
But
do.
you're perfect. It's perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. All right.
It's perfect.
Now, now I know about Instagram and live.
Yeah. So now you could get on here and do your own thing.
Yeah. All I knew what the thing was, that'd be good.
Yeah. So come on in, guys. We are going to be talking about a great topic today. We usually talk about the resistance around mental health, but this time we're going to talk about resistance around medical health, around as it pertains to men's mental health. So it's going to be really great. You see a new face on here. Dr. Lowell Whiteman is not going to be here tonight. He had a family emergency, but he will be here in a couple weeks. So it will just be Wayne and I. We have one more minute, and then we're going to get started.
Cool.
So we have a tornado watch going on right now here in Maryland.
Really? I'm just interesting. Haven't heard that.
But they always say tornado watches, don't nothing happen, but it was just storming really, really bad here. And I was like, oh, goodness.
Here I am enjoying my 90-some degrees weather with the blue skies out here in California.
There you go.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And Dr. Agrios, where are you?
I'm in Jersey.
New Jersey.
On the
Oh,
shore.
nice. What part of Jersey?
Long Branch, Asbury Park area on the shore. That's where I grew up. We're over in Jackson now, but about 20 minutes from the shore.
I lived out in Atlantic City for a little bit, stayed out in Trenton for a little bit. Yeah, I was out there for about a year or so.
Yeah, people don't know, but they think, they fly into Elizabeth and they think that's Jersey. They don't know we have farms and mountains and shores and
Right.
got everything here. I mean, that's why it's called the Garden State. It's beautiful.
Yes, I agree.
All right, so we'll get started. Hey guys, how you guys doing? You guys know this is Let's Talk Men's Mental Health with Dr. Leslie Rogers, Wayne Lassane, and our special guest here tonight, Dr. Philip Agrios. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about him, and then he'll talk a little bit about himself, and then we'll get this discussion going. Tonight's discussion is, why are men less likely than women to seek medical treatment? Why is that? Right? We often talk about mental health because we know men are less likely to seek mental health treatment, right? And we talked all about that. But what about medical health? There's some resistances around medical health and medical treatment as well, right? So Dr. Philip Agrios has transformed the trials and hardships of his own business and life experiences into a positive vision and important roadmap for the rest of us. After working with thousands of people from all walks of life and ages for over 3 decades, his discovery of a hidden sabotaging trait and how to switch it on and off instantly has helped people worldwide to make everlasting changes and discover their true power for long-lasting results. So thank you. Welcome for being here. Welcome for coming on to Instagram with us and talking about this much needed topic. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I used to practice as a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease, and also was into sports medicine. I was doc for a lot of national and local teams. And I was able to, about 30 years ago, trying to figure out why my business or my life wasn't working well at certain times, as well as my patients and my kids. I was able to come across a hidden survival trait that we're born with, and we call it the inborn sabotaging trait. Not that it undermines us, but it actually protects us from the very success that we seek, because that success subconsciously is more painful, so we never get there. So it actually stops your success because you're going into a protection. That's it. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not an idiot or the hundreds of other words we say to ourselves. You're just protecting yourself. And when I first found it, I was like, this is too simple. There's no way. So I went out to try to disprove it. And as I said, over 30 years of researching thousands upon thousands of people, not only we were able to prove it, we were able to find a way to switch it off instantly, and it works 100% of the time, and we call it the antidote. So when you use the antidote, it's impossible to sabotage yourself. So when you start to release your personal professional power and you start to feel uncomfortable, that saboteur kicks in to protect you. So imagine as you start hitting that wall and then you start to contract, imagine knowing what that is and immediately using the antidote and go into a growth phase. So now you're doing this compared to doing that. So we work with business owners, executives worldwide to help them do that. We guarantee our results and having fun doing it.
Thank you. And we have a book in the bookstore. I was just looking, Life's One Law. We have in the Mental Health Talk bookstore. What's that about?
That book, it basically is it goes over a blueprint that nature uses that I discovered during this whole process, that it goes through 6 steps to come back from its storms. And we have the same 6-step blueprint within us to solve any business or personal problem. And during those steps, I was able to discover there's actually 3 basic principles of the universe that governs the atoms of the galaxies, and how it governs us is those 3 principles but there are 3 traits. And once you know your sequence, we can tell you everything about you and never meet you. And that's what the book is about.
Excellent. And guys, we have that. We have copies of that book in the Mental Health Talk bookstore, mentalhealthtalk.live, if you're interested in checking it out. So today we're going to talk about why are men less likely to seek medical treatment? Why are men less likely to seek medical treatment? And again, we've talked about the resistances and the stigmas around seeking mental health treatment. Well, guess what? There's stigmas around medical illnesses too, right? And seeking treatment behind it. A lot of men, and there's a lot of cultural differences in seeking treatment as well, the same as with mental health and mental illnesses. A lot of men are resistant toward seeking medical attention. And it's important to it's important not only to seek medical attention, but to seek medical attention regularly. Just like we as women have to go get regular exams, men should get regular exams too, right? I was just talking to someone about a couple weeks ago where a friend of ours, passed away of high cholesterol and had not gone to the doctor in years, right? And just suddenly passed away from heart failure. So it's important to get checked as well for medical treatment. So let's start the discussion. So why do you guys, I did pull up some research because you guys know I always do research. I always bring research to the table. Can't talk about something without seeing what the research says about it.
Yes.
But, so as men yourselves, what do you guys think? Why are men so resistant to seek medical treatment?
My answer is pretty. I'm gonna simplify it because I'm looking forward to hearing your answer. I think that a lot of times, it's easier to not know, right? It's easy. So again, it goes back to that, almost like the same reason why we don't tell, like, say if you're in a relationship, you don't tell your partner or ask your partner something because you don't want to get that answer. Then you got to deal with it or have to show up. So I believe it's more or less of that. Like it's just like I'd rather not know, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Hey, I'm tough. No problem. I can take on anything. Are you kidding me? This little freaking thing, I ain't going to do that. Get out of my face. I got no time. I don't want to know. I'm not sick enough. That's usually the key. I mean, I've dealt with so many guys in this situation, my 35 years of practice. And my own best friend died of a heart attack, where 2 weeks prior, I told his sister, I said, if you don't tell him that if he doesn't go, that you never talk to him again. And because I wanted to do blood work on him, I wanted to do all the stuff. 2 weeks later, he passed. So I've lived it, I've seen it, and I use that to help guys that are freaking too stubborn to get it through their heads. But, a lot of times, especially, my generation, you're, you didn't say those things. You had to be tough. Because it's a sign of weakness in the male energy end, right? So there's male energy and there's female energy. Now we're not talking about men energy and women energy, right? Just like we're talking male and female. Male is the destructive energy. Female is the creative energy. We need both. They're very important. And it's how you're balancing those throughout your life. Just like as in you have male hormones and female hormones. We both have it. And it's no weakness. It's using and finding the balance between the two, right? So you just said it, Doc, that women are plugged into the system at an early age, usually starting with the gyno, right? Yeah. So they're used to seeing it, what's going on. And then guys are just like, especially if you're playing sports, the only time you're seeing the doc, if you got a broken ankle, sprained ankle, whatever the case may be, because you're in pain, because you can't move forward and doing your job. So that's just the basis of what I've seen.
Yeah. I wish that Dr. Lo Whiteman was here tonight. He would have loved this discussion because he's an elite performance coach, so he would have loved speaking to you. So, yeah. So here's some research that I found. In 2022, in one U.S. survey conducted by the Cleveland Clinic, 65% of men said they avoid seeking medical attention for as long as possible, citing reasons such as being too busy. Have you heard that? Being too busy, believing ailments will heal by themselves, right? And feelings of weakness.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So which one do you guys think is the most prevalent?
Most prevalent, I would say, they don't want to know.
Mm-hmm. Don't want to know and being too
Too
busy.
busy. Yeah, because remember, again, my generation is that you had to work, you had to be the producer. Right now, it's the same thing, and it's this. I've run into females the same way. Women have gone into where they shifted into the guy thought process. I don't have time. I can't do this. I know a friend of, not a friend of mine, a patient of mine that waited and waited and finally found the lump, and she had breast cancer. She had a bilateral, both sides mastectomy. So what I like to do is when I talk to my clients, it's not about men and women, in my opinion. It's about how much male energy are you protruding out, and how much do you got, you're focusing and moving forward. You got the swords and you're going through the forest. You're just killing everything compared to sitting back, taking some rest, looking at what's going on in your system and your body, not only physically, but mentally as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when you talk about fear, so this woman, Dr. Tisha Rowe, says she's a founder of the telemedicine network of Rowe Docs. As a primary doctor, she thinks that one reason men avoid the doctor is fear. Also contributing as well as fear, that superhero syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that vulnerability is hard. Being vulnerable is hard. So when I worked at the VA, a lot of men, especially talking about PTSD and trauma, and seeking mental health services, a lot of the men were like, if I'm sick, how can I take care of my family? Especially if that mindset is, I am the breadwinner, I am the person that takes care of everyone in the home. I have so much responsibility to my family towards keeping them safe, right? And all these other responsibilities, then how can I go and get checked out? If something's wrong with me, then how can I care for my family? But then on the flip side, I used to always ask the question, but then if you don't get checked and something does happen to you, how do you take care of your family?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't want to take all the time.
No,
Go for it.
I was just gonna say again, it stems from fear, right? It's that fear of if I know, now I got to deal with it. I got to do something about it. So if I can go as long as I can without knowing about it, and then you know how it go, like deal with it when it comes. Like, oh, okay, I got to figure it out now that it's here. It's kind of more or less of that for me.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I want a challenge. I don't want it easy. I'm going to go, I just want a challenge. I'll deal with it, knock that out, just like I'm knocking out my my career or my business or whatever the case may be. That's that type of thought. And guys, if you guys are listening to this, you got to realize this: vulnerability creates credibility. The more you're vulnerable, it's not that you're weak. You can look at vulnerability as two ways: as a weakness, or opening up, letting it out, finding what's going on to deal with it, because it's going to come out. So kill the monster when it's young. Don't wait until the thing's battling and now you got to battle it. It's another thing you have to battle. So, and I'm going to go a little controversial here, okay? You got, especially with vets. Vets are over medicated. They're not really cared for. They're just pieces of whatever. That's why we always we donate to a lot of veterans and veterans communities. So one of the things is, guys know traditional medicine. They got to go in, they're going to take some medication, and they know side effects. They know it's not going to make them feel good. It's going to maybe cause a problem in their thought process, whatever the case may be. I heard a lot of like, right? Where if you go to a functional medicine practitioner, someone who's going to look at you as more as fun, like look at you instead of just saying this is what's happening, but look at every aspect of your body and see how your whole body is functioning, and then sit down and say, look, and I've done this with so many people, where those of you may not be what a functional medicine doc is. It basically, what we do is we look at blood work in a whole different way. We'll take blood work. I used to take 13, 14, 15 vials of blood on my patients. And then what happens is you have this range of lab work, right? So what happens is anything outside that lab is called a disease. So a lot of traditional docs will say they have to wait until that crosses a line to do something, because then you can call it a disease. That's why your doc will look at something and it's just a couple points underneath going, well, let's see and let's wait and see. Do you want to wait and see? I don't want to wait and see. So what we do is we have a healthier range. So anything outside our range, but within the lab range, is called a tendency. So you can have a hypothyroid tendency. You can have a anemia tendency. We'll see where it's going. And then you got to sit down and have a good conversation going. You got to start changing your diet a little bit, giving you some nutrients so that your body can feel much, and you'll go from there. So with traditional medicine compared to functional medicine, we spend more time with them. We'll get down to the gritty, but it comes down to trust. You know, the doctors have to get trust immediately with their patients. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. So yes, I love the way you just broke it down. Actually, so I was in the military for 10 years. I love the idea of working within these parameters and trying to see if anything's outside of that. That makes so much sense to me. So going in the military for 10 years, that we would go to this thing called sick call in the mornings if you're not feeling good or whatever. And the reason I stopped going to, like, I would even go to even see the doctor or go to the hospital because exactly what you said. I would get prescribed some Motrin for whatever ailment I had, a headache, pain, whatever, Motrin. It was across the board. So after a while, I was like, why am I going to even go to waste my time? I could just figure out, I could do this on my own. So that's literally why I stopped going to seeking help in the military when I was not feeling well. But I just love how you broke it down, because that honestly makes so much sense. And why would you would think that would be the practice across the board, like for all patients, like let's get this much blood and see what once you start to step outside of these boundaries of your own self, then we can kind of figure out what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, if I got a bad diagnosis, I'm dead, right? You know, might as well just wait until I can live my life, and then I'll deal with it. If I die, I die. It's really the kind of the thought mentality of guys, right? Especially vets, right? And one of the things is that they really need to know that they got, and the other thing with docs don't do, they don't tell everything about their history. You know,
That's both medical health and mental health.
my intake was 11 pages. If you didn't fill everything out, I wouldn't accept you as a patient. Go back, you redo your, and give me all. And then I would sit there and I would talk to them, and I can tell a lot of times if they're holding back. I'm like, look, dude, man, this is between you and me. I'm not going to judge you. And that's the other thing too. Depends on the doctor. The doctor may come across as, what's wrong with you, whatever. They'll judge that person, right? You know, back in the old days, I remember my doc used to have a cigarette, right? Smoking, telling you, you know, stop smoking. You know, this cracks me up. But, you know, it's looking at, I don't want to be judged. I'm judged enough in this world, right? So I don't need another guy who I got to pay to tell me that I'm overweight or I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. I get enough from my spouse, my, you know, significant other, whatever the case may be. Would you guys agree?
Yeah. I think that trust, when you said, I think that's huge as well, because going into situations where you're getting a new doctor, like you may not feel like you want to give all information because of several different reasons, right? It could be because maybe you think that, like you said, be judged, or maybe you think that they may try to pre-diagnose you with something that, you know, you don't feel like that's going on with you, or maybe even a situation where like they may say, hey, you know, your parents had this, so now maybe, you know, let's do this, and it's going to cost me this much money to get all these tests or whatever. So now I'm not going to say any of these things. I'm going to say what's going on with me today to avoid all those other things. But if that trust was there, I would give my doctor everything, because I know that he's going to do what's best for me, or what he feels is best for me.
Yeah. One thing you said earlier, Dr. Agrios, that I thought was really, really important was that empathy and compassion. I had several, you know, especially working in a VA, you know, you talk a lot, you know, there are some, you know, some pros and cons with the VA. But when we talk about, you know, medical attention, especially with men, not feeling like the provider is compassionate or, you know, showing enough empathy and caring, right? Showing the person that they care. And a lot of persons will stop going to see their medical providers because of that. So, for instance, a lot of people used to say, I feel like nothing but a number. And I don't know if you guys are out there listening, any men are out there listening, have you ever gone to your provider and felt like I'm just a number, right? And especially when you're working with mental health and mental illnesses with psychiatrists. Let me tell you guys, and I used to tell my veterans all the time, not to take up for anyone, but when you're working at the VA hospital, psychiatrists are assigned or scheduled people every 20 minutes, every 20 to 30 minutes, and they're overbooked. So, you know, it's not like us, like a psychologist. I can just sit there and do a detailed intake and et cetera with you. Psychiatrists don't have that time when working in certain environments, and they have to get you in and out. But what that does is that kind of interferes with that being empathic toward your patient, right? That compassion. And it shows that you're not compassionate and you're less empathic, right? So I like to put that out there because that's the truth. And that's the same with some doctors. You know, can you imagine, like, especially when during COVID time, right? They were so overworked, they didn't have time to really build that rapport that's needed. When I go see my doctor, I want them to be compassionate with me and understand what it is that I'm going through, right? Not just get me in there, okay, I'm going to check the box, I'm going to give you this medication, off you go, right? But unfortunately, that's how things are sometimes. And, you know, so I do think that's an important statement that you made with that empathy and compassion, because that goes a long way and it helps to build rapport. And that does, that interferes with engagement. If you don't feel like you're the person you're going to see is compassionate, that interferes with engagement. And then it's almost like, and then it becomes a stereotype, like this person treated me this way, so all doctors are like that way. Or doctors
Yeah,
are compassionate.
you got to realize too, first of all, the traditional is about managing disease, not really doing too much about it, right? Traditional medicine is acute, mainly acute problems. If I'm bleeding, if I get hit by a car and I'm bleeding around there, do not give me an adjustment or vitamin C. Get my butt to the hospital, get me under control. Once I get into a chronic thing, I'll take it from there once I go into a subchronic or a chronic condition. Because they really fail at that, because drugs don't take care of anything. It doesn't reverse anything. It doesn't reverse diabetes. It just maintains it, right? And there's many times with functional medicine that, depending on who you are, that you can have a possibility your conditions can be reversed. Also, number two is that medicine is a business. We forget about that, right? And now with the GPs, and I know GPs, they're caring guys, but they're like, you know, now they're a part of the hospital. A lot of these guys have been have been bought out by hospitals. Now they have a boss that they have to do. And now you're waiting 2-3 hours waiting for your doc, and you get in feeling that you're rushed, because he or she is rushed, because they have to come at numbers in order to make money too, right? So that's just how it is. So you can't get too much on them because they're in a system that's broken.
Right. So guys, we're talking about, why are men less likely to seek medical treatment? Why are men less likely to seek medical treatment? Okay, so let's go to the cultural part of it, right? Because we all deal with things differently based on our culture and race as well. Child rearing, upbringing, how we, you know, modeling, how our parents modeled to us, and all of that is wrapped up into this, right? So in 2023, it's the same clinic. So the last clinic was 2022. So they did another study in 2023. Let me see. About 1,000 men, 53% of white men said they don't get regular health screenings. For non-white men, it was 63. It was higher for non-white men. So for blacks and other, higher, 63%. They didn't get regular screenings. But for whites, it was 53%. So a little higher for non-whites. So then what do you think, you know, attributes to that cultural difference there?
Goes back to trust. You know, we know medical history and things that have happened in this country, you know, through pertaining to race and ethnicity. So again, it just goes back to trust. We know the statistics on areas where it's low income, or how medical procedures are done, and how the results of the higher rate of death, you know, happen. So again, just trust and fear, you know. But I did want to ask something, and we can come back to this. But I wanted to ask, like, why do you think that because I love this. Something I just heard recently that that they're petitioning. Supposedly, I don't know. I just know that I watched some doctors talking about this. They want to change the name of diabetes to processed food disease. So why don't we talk enough about food? You know, because we know that food is a cause of so many different diseases that we carry in our bodies, and it just, and I always think about that, like, because we the way we eat in this country, especially men, you know, if you don't have a big plate of food and you don't eat this many burgers and you know, all this kind of, you know, and it's just again, so I thought about that the other day, so sorry.
No, I mean, that's great. I mean, people know what diabetes is about. You know, they want to do these name changes, whatever the case may be, right? But my question too in that research, number one is, what is it to the people that could afford compared to those who couldn't afford it, right? So that would be my first question. To me, if they break it down to economical as well, because if you got great insurance, even though you may not go, but you have great insurance compared to going to a clinic and maybe, you know, you're not getting as great as care, or you don't feel you're going to anyway. So that would be another question of mine too. And they're pretty close with the white and the non-white statistics. But again, maybe that would be one of the things, or the upbringing, where again, you're not taking care of yourself. You don't know. You have more options because maybe you can't afford good food. Right, I've had people do that. That's great, but I can't afford organic foods, right? And they do it that way. It's more expensive because they want to keep you sick. I'm going to tell you how it is. Insurance companies, the reason why they don't, in my opinion, and there was a Wall Street Journal article a long time ago, and I cannot remember what date it was, whatever, but they showed that when the insurance companies don't pick up things that actually work because they make more money on you when you're sick. Okay, so basically what happens, because, you know, increased premiums and all that, plus they're probably invested into other areas too, so you have this consistency of keeping people that are sick. If not, then their profits are hit pretty hard, from the drug companies to that as everything else. So yeah, you have to look at it that way. And if you're not really opening your eyes to that, then you have to.
But again, it takes me back, even hearing you guys talk about this, you know, it takes me back to that cultural piece, right? You know, the lack of health care in certain populations, in certain environments, especially in marginalized communities. And they talk about that, the lack of health insurance, the lack of education in marginalized communities that, you know, may interfere with getting adequate health care, right? So when you're talking about men, right now we're talking about men, but then holistically, we're talking about everyone, right? But men specifically, you know, when you're talking about certain populations, then that health care, lack of health care, lack of adequate health care in marginalized communities also can impact seeking medical treatment when needed. Even when you're talking about eating, you know, eating certain types of food, again, that cultural piece, right? The education around eating, around healthy eating, right? You know, some people, you know, can't afford it, you know, they have to eat what they can eat, or, you know, and then growing up, you know, in how we've, growing up and how we've seen our families eat as well, right? Mm-hmm. You know, growing up in my home, we didn't eat healthy. My family did not eat healthy, right? That's something that I had to learn on my own. However, you know, I'm sure they were engaging in behaviors that they saw their families engage in as well, right? So when you talk about that cultural piece, you got to look at that piece too, as to, you know, understand why we engage in behaviors that are cultural specific as well.
Yeah, the thing too is, you know, we look at gathering with friends and family and foods involved. The question is what type of foods, right? Mm-hmm. Even when I was practicing, you know, I was very honest with my patients. I do 90% of what I tell you. I was brought up on Bugles and Twinkies and taking the red cherries right out of the jar and eating them, that stuff. And once in a while, I'm not going to, eat well. And I'm okay with that because it's just I'm human. So I would go to parties, and if I had something, people would just bust my chops. Oh, hey, is that good for you? So just that stigma once in a while, like, okay, I'm not going to eat this because I don't want to hear it anymore, right? But it's if you have a Super Bowl party, what is it? It's all the junk food and everything else, which that's what that is once in a while. But a lot of times, this is how people eat, and what really breaks my heart. And you guys out there and people who have kids, man, I will see kids that are overweight from 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and I'm looking at them going, parents, you have no idea you are putting a death sentence on your child. And not only on that, but this is mental health too, right? So they're going to pick on the kids, they're going to make fun of them. But a lot of times cultural, whether it's a lot of rice and, or a lot of cheeses and all these other things, it's just really high calorie. But they're showing now that millennials are really starting to go to doctors more. They have more of an opening and understanding compared to us old guys.
But if you think about it, social media, I think that, social media play a lot in that too, because now people are transitioning to vegetarians. There's a lot of vegetarian, places opening options, opening vegans. And, they're almost starting to fashionalize it. Is that a word, fashionalize?
It is.
But my word is what I made up. But they're like making it like more like intriguing, more interesting to become a vegan or vegetarian or eating certain foods, right? And our, kids are growing up in a space where everybody's talking about now about veganism and vegetarianism and things of that sort, right?
Well, we grew up, I'm sorry, I'll let you real quick, is that we grew up with no internet and had no idea, like these documentaries about how they're processing the meats and how they process, all this stuff. And you never realized growing up what was in this stuff. You were told it was good. You trusted your doctors. You trusted what was on TV.
Mm-hmm.
You did what it is. Until I remember I had a patient who was a butcher. And I asked him, I said, what do you do when you come across, a cow with a tumor? He goes, well, we just cut across it or just cut that leg off and we keep on processing. I was like, wait a minute, what? You don't throw out the whole cow? I'm like, really? And I was probably in my late 20s when I first found out. I was like, wait a minute, I got to look into this a little more than I thought. But just thought I'd throw that little story out.
I've heard that before, and you just validated it for me. Oh. And I just ate steak tonight for dinner, so.
Yeah, I try to eat healthy these days as well. I do cleanses and detoxes like that. But I know a lot of people have switched over to become vegans. And my thing about that, and I have no issue with it. It's just that you might want to consult with somebody who actually knows what they're doing, because you're probably not going to get the things that your body actually needs, because you're just going to eat the things that you think you're supposed to, and missing probably some protein, some vitamins, and all sorts of things that your body essentially needs. And so you're just doing it, on your own, when you wouldn't do that with anything else, because you would consult somebody. So why not consult somebody when you decide to switch diets?
Absolutely. My own daughter went into a vegan phase in college, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You don't have access to foods. You can't have enough of this. And she did it, but she started to lose her hair, started, a lot of things happening. And she finally got off of it and started getting back to the health. And again, vegetarian, whether or not you're a pescatarian or whatever the case may be, please educate yourself. Take a course, figure this out. Have a mentor, a coach to guide you if you're going to do this, which is fine. But listen to your body.
Yeah. So, guys,
I see that my friend just joined. Her name's the Real Taj Mahal, and she actually is a holistic person who teaches about food and health, and she's amazing. And so funny. I just saw her join, and I was just, she doesn't know that I was just speaking about her in the sense of just talking about how foods are and everything. And she actually, that's who I get my detox and cleanse through as well. And she's been a great mentor for me and helping me kind of like figure out, learn about foods and stuff like that and what it does to my body and everything like that. So I just wanted,
we got to get her up here.
Yeah, when I Look, I've been practicing 35 years, so I've been talking about this for a long time. You know, it's how I was a quack and all that. I remember one time with vitamin D. Now it's all about vitamin D, right? A lot of times, you got to realize too, it's not a flu season. It's a vitamin D deficiency season, okay? So what happens is vitamin D is very, very important with the immune system. So normally with the guidelines from functional medicine is you don't have an autoimmune disease. You should be around 65, okay? Your doctor will look at 30, 35 as, oh, you're not doing too bad. No, it's not. If you're an autoimmune, you got to be around 80 to 85, okay? So, and you should always check your vitamin D twice a year, especially during the winter times when you are maybe up in the northern hemisphere. Even though you're outside naked running around in the sun in the wintertime, you're still not going to get that much vitamin D. Plus, also, the darker your skin is, the less of the vitamin D that you have. They were looking at that as well with COVID and all that, was that could have been one of the keys too. So vitamin D, if you do anything, guys, look at your vitamin D. I'm not going to give you any advice here. This is not advice. This is just information for you. But that was a key to helping people that were sick. And, you know, that's one of the things you have to realize. But get some information. Start out slow. So the question is, you know, what do I do? First of all, you got to be honest with yourself. You got to sit down and have a really good talk with yourself. It's not about whether or not you die. Dying is the easy way out. It's called chronic condition pain until you're now 70, 80 years old. Now your quality of life is diminished. So if you're 40, 50, 30, get yourself in there, checking it out, making sure you're eating well. That's the first thing. It comes down to you. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame your spouse. Don't blame anybody. But you got to take 100% responsibility for your life. If you don't, you can never change it.
Right. And that was going to come to my next, you know, as we're winding down. So then we get into this, like, how do you change this mindset? You know, we're talking about guys and why are guys so resistant to seek care that they need, whether it's mental health care or medical care. And, you know, I always say this, medical conditions often overlap with mental health conditions. For instance, I have hyperthyroidism. I have thyroid problems, right? Which the symptoms are rapid heartbeat, sweating. You know, they can overlap with menopause. They can overlap with anxiety. So I always tell people, even when I see patients, have you received an evaluation, health evaluation, to rule out medical conditions before you go to mental health, right? Mental illness. So I know that if I'm feeling like I'm having a panic attack, then I can go to my doctor and get my blood work done to see if it's my thyroid. If it's not my thyroid, then yeah, possibly it may be anxiety if it's nothing else, if medical is ruled out. So when you change this mindset as to, I don't want to go to the doctor because because I'm too busy, right? Or because I believe that things will work itself out, or because I feel a sign of weakness. I'm afraid of what others may think if they come back and tell me I have a medical condition, right? Or because it makes me vulnerable, right? Vulnerability is difficult for some, right? So before you go through that, you know, to change this kind of mindset is to think, well, will I be a stronger person if I were to go and seek professional help, medical help? Will it make me stronger? I mean, if I'm healthy, then I can take care of my family. If I'm healthy, maybe I can extend my life, right? If I have, Wayne, you were talking about earlier, family conditions, right? Such as cancer, family history, right? You want to know that. You want to know. That's something you want to know, that do you have a family history of cancer? I want to know if my family has a history of breast cancer, right? So that I know what preventative measures I should engage in at going forward. And for my children, right? Well, if I were to have, I don't have any, you know, girls, but regardless, you know, you want to know what your family history is so that you can know and understand how you can care for yourself and how your kids can better care for themselves and vice versa, right? So when we talk about thyroidism, prostate cancer for men, what are other routine medical exams or preventative measures, Dr. Agrios, would be important for men, you think?
Looking at, I'm biased. Okay, so looking at your blood work as well, but more than just usually what your doc will order, because they're scared that the insurance companies won't pay for it, or they think it's an overkill. I find so many other conditions by doing that 15 vial blood, and then refer them to the specialist they need. And just real quick about the thyroid. Thyroid, you must have. You should make sure you have all 8 thyroid tests done, and look at a different way. 99% of those who have hypothyroidism, you have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's.
Yeah. I like Graves' disease.
I'm sorry?
Graves' disease.
Graves' disease is the hyper, but usually there's always an autoimmune disease in there. So what happens is it's not really a thyroid problem, it's an autoimmune problem that is destroying your thyroid, your brain, your gut, and everything else. And also you have to look at leaky gut syndrome. Yes, it is a thing. And remember, leaky gut equals leaky brain. So it's a whole thing, but look it up. I'm going off tangent here. Just wanted to throw some information. But getting your colonoscopy there, getting some blood work done, and just getting on an exercise program. I remember a few years I was not working out, a lot of stress, about 10 years or so ago. And I finally decided I'm going to do it. So I woke up, I did 1 push-up, went in the shower, went to work. Next day I did 1 push-up, took a shower, went to work. Next day, 1 push-up, got in the shower, then did another push-up, then I got a lift-up bar. And over about a month, I started working out slowly, and I started to see results, which got me into the routine. So you don't have to go to the gym for an hour or whatever the case may be. Start doing something at work. There are apps like Fit Coach. I like Fit Coach because it has a lot of ways from stretching to yoga to HIIT programs. A HIIT program is high intensity interval training, which will help lose your weight, build your muscle faster than just walking. Okay, and it can give you up to 72 hours of still benefits when you stop. So look at an app. Depending on what your personality is, maybe you need to go work out with somebody. Find somebody that you can work with and keep each other accountable. A lot of you need accountability, but you also need a why. If your why is not strong enough, you're gonna stop. So, I sometimes with my wife, I tell her, I'm not working out. You got to tell me I look like crap. Oh my God, get away from me. I'm going to throw up, right? And that will get me going. I know it's a joke, but it's just that, right? So I go out and I work out, and I go like, thank you, I feel so much better. So those are some of the things you can do, but it's up to your personality. What is going to motivate you? Not only motivate, what's going to inspire you.
And I will say also, when you go into these doctor's offices, don't be afraid to ask questions, guys. I'm sorry. When you go into these offices, because we have on here feeling judged and, all these different stigmas we have, when we go into these offices. Ask questions. If you have to, write down some questions that you're curious about, and ask a doctor about, whatever you're curious about. Don't be afraid to do so. That's what they're there for. That's what they're getting paid for.
The doctor, don't ask me any questions. I know better than you.
Ask questions.
Here it is. Right? Hey, look, your doc works for you. I'm going to say that one more time. Your doc works for you. If they don't answer, fire them. Fire them and find somebody else. But he's the only person in my insurance. Okay, then find some money, save a little bit, stop the cokes and all this other and your cigarettes, block that off. You'll get enough money. Go to somebody, spend some extra money on you. Make that a present. You don't need the $400 sneakers. You need a good exam by a functional doc that will give you the time and the stuff that you need.
Right. So yeah, ask questions, and also be sure and make sure that you feel comfortable with whomever you're with. Like Dr. Agrios said, you don't have to stick with one person. It's even with mental health professionals, right? You want to make sure you're not going in there sabotaging yourself too, because sometimes we go into the environment without pre-biases and we sabotage it before we get in there. But, you know, have an open mind and, you know, go into these offices and, you know, ask questions and make sure you feel comfortable with that process. Also, make sure, again, you know, make sure you get these routine preventative measures out the way, these screenings. If you have a history of cancer, a history of medical illness that you think is important to find out the history and so that you can keep yourself safe potentially and your children safe, then get these screenings done because it's really important and sometimes it can be life-saving. Wayne, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, Doc, you know, you are refreshing. You know, I would feel so comfortable and safe to go into your office and talk to you just because of the things that you've said tonight on here. And you know, I truly believe that you are about preventive maintenance and not just to put a Band-Aid over something and kind of like, I love that. I even love that you said that, oh, you know, we'll just monitor it. Like, oh no, why not check it out? Why not see what's going on? Why is it outside the numbers? So that makes me feel good. Like, I would be like, wow, I would go to you, and it also speaks to why what my hesitation is because of the things I've heard you say. It kind of validates my own thoughts already, and kind of is like, yep, see that, and that's the parts I'm speaking to when I think about, like, I'm gonna go here and they're just gonna tell me this thing, and it's really not gonna do anything, and it's kind of gonna send me off on my way, put a little Band-Aid on me, and tell me I'm gonna be all right, you know, and that doesn't fit to me.
Beautiful. And, you know, guys out there or people who, you know, the ones who have men who are partners, you got to give them a consequence. If there's no consequence, they're not doing it. I don't care. They say, oh, yeah, I'll go next week. They're not going. I'm going to let you know they're not going. Tell them you're going to hold sex for them. Tell them that you're not going to speak to them. Tell them that you're not going to cook for them. Tell them whatever and give them a consequence. You know what their weakness is. Go after that to force them to get that going and be there. And you can go with them. No, I don't need you. I'm going with you. Well, I don't need you. Well, I'm going. So, and you know, these things get them go. If you don't go, then I've had discussions with spouses to say, you're being a wimp. I'm being complaining about him, but you're not doing anything. You're his partner, right? Well, be his partner. Kick him in his butt. Get it going. Let's do this.
Yeah.
You know, truth is, I don't set my own appointments. Every time I go to the doctor, it's because my wife sets my appointment. And if not for her, I probably wouldn't set my appointment, you know, in all honesty. So, you know, and you know, statistics show that, you know, men who are in relationships usually live longer because of that factor alone, right? Because their spouse usually gets them to go to the doctor and set this appointment for them because we won't do it on our own.
So,
yeah.
Can you promise yourself it's time to set your own?
I definitely need to.
Right? It's your why, baby. It's your why. What's your why going? You look young. You got things going. You get to my age, man. You gotta, you know, I'm 62 right now, right? So you got to keep it going. I got a good 50, 60 years ago because I told my kids I'll still be doing Zoom at that late. I'm gonna be like mic drop and I'll keel over. It'll be a fill drop. But you know, what your why is, keep it going and live your life the way it is. Don't think, oh, I'm 60, I'm 70, my life is over. Hell no, man. I know people at 80, whatever, jumping out of planes. I've jumped out of planes. I've done things. Live your life.
Yes.
Get off the bandwagon.
Your life is lived how you make it. I always tell people, you write your book. You're the author of your book. You write it how you want it to play out. So tonight we talked about, guys, why are men less likely to seek medical treatment? Why are men less likely to seek medical treatment? And again, we talked about the believing that things will work out themselves. Oh, you know, I'll get better. Nothing's wrong. You know, you hear those heart palpitations and you say, oh no, I'll wait. It might not be a good idea to wait. It might be you need to just get up and go to the hospital because a lot of times you could be having a heart attack, not even know it, right? You could be having a stroke. Anything could be happening, right? No, I'll wait till tomorrow. No, don't put it off till tomorrow. If something is concerning today, get to the hospital today, men. Feeling of weakness, vulnerability, feeling judged was a big one. How are people going to look at me if they tell me I have cancer or if some other ailment is going on. So, you know, try to restructure these thoughts and look at it in a positive way. My health is important to me. And if going to the doctor's appointments will give me the tools that I need to live a healthy and longer life, then that's what I need to do, right? And, you know, that's out of respect for your family and your loved ones and stuff, because you can't take care of them if you're gone. Then
Yeah, you got that this way. When, if you saw some guy who's an idiot, who's stupid, he's kind of weak, right? What you think? This guy's an idiot, right? A kind of weakness, right? Well, if you're not going and getting your checks, you're an idiot and you're weak. So not going, you're weak. So let's look at it that way. You're scared. So you're really inside scared. I don't want to go. And we all know that you're scared. So you might as well just go, put your, you know, your big person's panties on, go in there, go to the docs, get what you got to do, face it and deal with it and dance with it instead of fighting.
right. So, any questions, any last words? Oh, and we didn't talk about self-care, guys. Please, I don't have time to talk about it right now, but I will talk about it. Self-care. You need to think about self-care outside of the gym as well. There's other self-care tools and strategies that you guys can dive into. You can Google self-care for men. Google self-care for men. Go on YouTube, self-care for men to decrease anxiety, improve mood, etc. There are a lot of excellent tools online that you guys can look at for men. We don't talk about self-care enough for men. So that's an episode that I'm going to have to do, because we don't talk about it enough for men. If there's nothing else, oh my gosh, thank you so much, Dr. Agrios, for coming on here. This has been so amazing. I try to have wonderful guests on here, you know, every so often to spread awareness around important topics, in this case around men's mental health. And that doesn't mean it's only for men. Women can come too. I have a brother, I have a father, a brother. You know, we need to be educated as well around this topic. So thank you guys so much. We'll be back in 2 weeks with probably another guest. I'll see, because I do have somebody else in mind. But Dr. Lo Whiteman will be back in a couple weeks. You know, during the summer, we're every 2 weeks, but then we'll be back weekly starting September. So hopefully we will see you guys in 2 weeks. We'll put up something about our next guest, but it's going to be another amazing person. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Agrios. And when you come on here live, I'm definitely going to jump in your live now that you can do it.
Oh, cool. And share this video, guys.
Yeah.
Go out there and share this out to people, whatever. And guys, man, do some meditation. Take for you. What are you doing in the morning for you? Are you meditating, working out, sitting back, chilling out? Take some time for you. It's okay. You're not going to get a smack in the head from your parents saying, do work, right?
Yeah.
Hear you.
All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later. You guys have a blessed and wonderful night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.